An education bill vetoed tonight at 6. Team coverage looking at the governor's decision and reaction from Alaskans.
I'm Johnson Kuhn here in Anchorage, where concern about education funding is growing after the governor's veto.
I'm Alex Bengal in Fairbanks, where the local school board shows disappointment but little surprise in Governor Dunleavy's veto.
Uncertainty of a Mount Spurr eruption grows. The volcano shows signs it might not be as active as it has been in previous months.
And the weekend is almost here. I'll let you know how to plan for any outdoor activities.
Plus, the fight in Anchorage leads to a deadly shooting. We have a police update.
You're watching Alaska's news source.
Earlier today, I vetoed the education bill.
Now, after today's veto, the governor has a new education bill. He says that less oil revenue and no education policy meant a veto was necessary.
Governor Dunleavy stressing 34 days left in session means it is possible for lawmakers to pass a bill that he maintains still includes a funding increase.
And this is a bill that if agreed upon by the legislature, I'll sign tomorrow morning. I'll sign Monday. I'll sign Tuesday. I would have signed a month ago.
Tonight, with per-student funding in the governor's education bill, only about half of what he vetoed, there are strong and mixed emotions about where the education funding crisis heads.
As school districts who are already facing massive cuts are once again left with questions, we're going to show you what's in that bill, including the new dollar amount that the governor calls an increase. House Bill 69's vetoed version only included a $1,000 Base Student Allocation, or BSA, increase. There were no other policies attached.
Now, it would take 40 of the state's 60 lawmakers from both the House and Senate to override the governor's veto. Now, that means the future is still unclear.
There were really two reasons for the veto. One of the reasons is that the revenue situation has deteriorated a lot since we submitted the bills and worked off a budget in December. And the second reason for the veto is there's no policy in the bill.
I think it's incredibly important that we get to a number that both the House and the Senate can concur on. I believe that both bodies, saw the veto coming at $1,000 BSA, and I'm more interested in getting an amount quickly back to the governor where we have concurrence and his support, so we don't have to go into a special session that delays funding of our schools another 60 or 90 days.
The problem that needs to be solved is funding and policy to make it work. If you don't solve both, you don't solve the problem. If we want to give stability and sustainability and predictability to our education system, the parents, the students, the teachers, then we need to solve the problem.
Now, one of the things that we're watching, will there be 40 votes needed for the override? Both the House and Senate have bipartisan majorities, a total of 35 members from different parties. The House and Senate minorities have 25 Republicans. We will link you to the vetoed version of HB 69 on our website and mobile app.
Now, this leads to reactions from across the state. Our teams from South Central to the interior have been watching closely. That includes the NEA Alaska.
The governor blasting the state's largest teachers union as special interest. They told our investigative reporter Johnson Kuhn where they're headed after the veto. Johnson.
The NEA Alaska Union president said, unlike the governor's version, his more than 11,000 members are committed to finding an education funding solution after the veto, which some have applauded, others deeply disappointed.
It's an unexpectedly sad day. The governor told us what he's going to do. He's done it.
Anchorage parent Jeff Braun has 3 daughters in the district. He says he and his wife are frustrated knowing their kids will face another school year with cuts to programs they feel are vital. Meantime, NEA Alaska President Tom Claymeyer called the veto disgraceful and disappointing.
The governor has been willing to simply frankly, just hear himself talk while at the same time undermining the foundation of our public schools by defunding them. And we've been there all along pointing that fact out.
3 years in a row, he has voted against my kids, your kids, all of our kids. He's voted against education funding. He's voted against economy. He's voted against our future as a state.
But not everyone feels that way. Anchorage resident Scott Widener saying on the Alaska's News Source Facebook page, he feels blank checks are not the way to fix what he called a failure of this education system. Going on to say, quote, a majority can't read or do basic skills at grade level. Teachers with hands tied by administrators. If kids can't pass classes, they'll flunk. The days of passing kids through the system needs to stop. Start budget cuts from the top down and reallocate funds to needed areas. The NEA Alaska president says members are keeping an open mind about the governor's alternative bill if it's similar to past compromises. Johnson Kuhn, Alaska's News Source.
All right, so what is in the governor's new bill?
His staff gave Alaska's News Source a copy.
The BSA increase is actually $560 per student. We did hear the governor mention $700 today. That's what they say they consider the total when these things are added.
Now, that includes reading programs, almost $22 million in K-6 performance-based funding, and more than $13.5 million homeschool correspondence funding. Complete details on our website and mobile app.
And our complete coverage continues as we cover the interior,
where Fairbanks education leaders told Alex Bengal specifically why they're concerned.
Veto disappointment from the Fairbanks School Board as members say the district needs at least $680 per student in additional state funding to avoid further cuts in an already tough year. Coping with a $16 million deficit, the Fairbanks School District has already voted to close 3 elementary schools next year, outsource its custodial staff, and eliminate around 150 jobs from next year's budget, including 53 teachers. Board member Morgan Dulian saying she's not surprised by the governor's decision, but that public schools are grossly underfunded in Alaska.
We cannot expect to have increased outcomes if we say that we aren't going to fund them. So I don't believe that policy and funding are mutually exclusive.
In its recommended budget, the district assumes a $680 per student funding increase. If more money comes their way, that money will go toward keeping the students per classroom as low as possible. School Board President Melissa Burnett, meanwhile, saying she supports both the BSA increase and the governor's policy proposals, including open enrollment.
I've always been a big supporter of education funding, and I did support the $1,000 increase, but my support of the $1,000 increase for me personally came with the policy that was attached.
If no added money comes out of Juneau this year, Burnett says program cuts and even further school closures might be necessary. Along with policy changes, Governor Dunleavy is asking for a $700 increase to the BSA. Alex Bengal, Alaska's News Source.
In Anchorage, 24-year-old Michael Nelson has been charged with murdering another man after charging documents say the victim was walking by a car Nelson was inside of. Police say when the victim bent down to look at Nelson's license plate, they fought, and the man was shot. He later died at the hospital. Expanded coverage on our website. The winds have calmed, and it seems like the rain is letting up.
All right, Chief Meteorologist Melissa Fry would know, and she joins us now. Forecast, Melissa.
Yeah, we're definitely seeing improving conditions. The storm is still out there. There's just not much left to it. We are definitely seeing those clouds still lowering and some showers in the area. This is a live look from Mount Baldy looking back toward Anchorage. We had some peaks of blue sky, but again, you can see those clouds definitely a little lower and darker than what we were seeing earlier this afternoon. Still seeing wind gusts out of Ted Stevens to 31 miles per hour, and temperatures are mild, sitting in the mid-40s. But when you look at the radar, you can see it's still pretty active out there. A lot of showers around Homer, pushing into Cook Inlet, around Seward, into Prince William Sound. And we have those showers here in the area, too, of Anchorage heading into the valleys. So if you're heading out and about tonight, don't be surprised if you get caught in one of those showers, and we'll continue to see them overnight and into early tomorrow morning. Again, still all wrapping around this area of low pressure that is still supplying both the moisture and some breezy conditions to the region. We also still have that blizzard warning in effect for the slope. It's a combination of high winds and snow that you'll see there. Also more snow on the way for the Klondike Highway near White Pass. Heavy snow there, but it's just scattered showers that we'll see here in South Central tonight. I do expect those to taper off midday tomorrow. We'll get back to drier conditions just in time for the weekend, and most of the state holding on to dry conditions not only Saturday but into Sunday. And that is until that next storm system pushes in here from the southwest Sunday evening. Temperatures are going to stay mild. In fact, overnight, I don't even expect us to drop below freezing. We should hold in the mid-30s. But again, those showers in the area, a chance little snow mixes in, especially for the higher elevations. That snow level is about 1,800 feet. And tomorrow we'll see high temperatures back into the mid-40s. I'll have a closer look at that full extended forecast here in just a few minutes.
All right, Melissa, thank you very much. And still ahead, let's bring in the experts.
Absolutely. New details on Mount Spurr. Its level of activity is changing.
You're watching Alaska's news source.
Mount Spurr is showing signs it might not be as active.
Yeah, Chief Meteorologist Melissa Fry joins us now with what that might mean for a possible eruption. Melissa.
Yeah, the volcano, it is still under an advisory, but the Alaska Volcano Observatory released a statement today saying there is more uncertainty than what we've seen in previous months. Now, joining us in studio tonight is Dave Snyder with the Alaska Volcano Observatory to help us understand this all better. Thanks for coming in, Dave.
I'm glad to be here.
So we've watched the activity in Spurr and chances for an eruption slowly go up over the past several months, really over the last year. But we heard today things may be now going in the other direction and actually quieting down some. Can you explain what's changed?
Yeah, really over the past couple of weeks, what we've been seeing is a decrease in sort of rock-breaking earthquakes, along as sort of a pause or slowdown in the deformation of the volcano. So, taken together, this shows that we're just on a little bit of a downslope, and we're really waiting to get out and get some more gas measurements to help us pin down sort of the prognosis going forward.
Okay, so yeah, I understand you haven't been able to monitor the gas emissions from Spurr directly in about 4 weeks because of the weather. Now, why is that data specifically helpful?
Yeah, so, a lot of people don't realize that magma actually, and the driver of eruptions, are the gases that are dissolved in the magma. The most common one of those is water, and you can see that back when we had decent weather, you could see the steam, condensing at the summit of Mount Spurr. But the other gases are sulfur dioxide and carbon dioxide, and by measuring the amounts and sort of the ratio of those, as well as the trend, that can help us determine whether or not magma is moving up within the volcano, because one of those gases comes out of the solution at depth and the other one when it's shallower. And so by looking at the combination or the ratio between those two, that can help us decide whether or not magma is continuing to ascend.
Okay, got it. Now, Spurr has a history of both explosive eruptions, we saw that in 92 and 53, but also failed eruptions, right, back in 2004. Is there anything about what you're seeing from the volcano today that helps you think maybe one or the other outcome is more likely this time?
Yeah, it's kind of probably an answer that's not so satisfying. But right now, we know that magma has come into the volcano. We can see that through lots of our monitoring data, from earthquakes to the deformation and gas emissions. It's too early to tell right now whether or not this decline that we've seen over the past several weeks is on its way down towards like no eruption, or if it's just a temporary blip on a way up towards an eruption in the future.
Okay, now, so for people that have done preparations already for the ash, maybe by picking up a mask or an extra air filter, or they're still planning to do that, it's on their to-do list, do you still recommend that at this point?
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways you can be prepared. And the first part of being prepared is by being informed from authoritative sources. But then in terms of those other sorts of preparation things, Alaska is subject to a lot of natural hazards. And so really to prepare for a volcanic eruption, is to just add a couple things, like a mask. A lot of us still have masks lying around from the pandemic days. Things like air filters, you can always use that going on in the future. So, being prepared is always a good idea. I think the main point here is people should be prepared, informed, but there's really no reason to panic or really change any of your sort of long-term summer plans. We'll see what the volcano does, and if things start to increase, we'll get that information out to people.
All right, Dave Snyder again with the Alaska Volcano Observatory. Thank you for all you guys do there, monitoring it 24/7 and getting that information out so quickly.
Thanks for listening. Click subscribe so you can get the latest podcast from Alaska's news source automatically. And stay up to date with breaking news and in-depth reporting available for free 24/7 with the Alaska's news source app.